You know what's interesting? We spend hours analyzing baby boomers and millennials. We write endless opinions about Gen Z as if they're a brand new psychological mystery. Entire industries try to understand their habits, their fears, and how they spend money. But there's a generation in the middle that almost no one talks about. They're rarely criticized, rarely defended, almost invisible. Generation X, born roughly between 1965 and 1980. They're the senior coworkers who don't complain much, but somehow carry entire departments. They're managers who care more about results than recognition. They're parents who seem reserved, highly independent, and emotionally contained. They help build the internet, but don't feel the need to live their lives on it. They understand technology well, but they don't depend on it emotionally. And here's what's rarely discussed. Their psychological makeup may be the most misunderstood of any living generation. They were the first large group of kids who came home to an empty house. Imagine it's 1978. You're 8 years old. You walk home from school, unlock the door, and the house is empty. Your parents are working. There's no smartphone, no GPS, no cameras, no instant messaging, no easy way to check in. You make your own snack. You do your homework alone. You entertain yourself. You wait. By the mid-1980s, millions of children were regularly unsupervised after school. That wasn't a small social change. It was an entire generation learning one quiet lesson. You can't always rely on someone being there, and that lesson stays with you. The empty house didn't just create independence, it created self-sufficiency. When parents came home, rules were clear, consequences were fast, long emotional discussions weren't common, discipline was direct. You learned cause and effect quickly. You learned to think ahead. You learned to calculate risk. That's why many Gen Xers approach life strategically. They grew up without constant safety nets. They don't assume protection. They assume responsibility. They were also the first generation to watch stability fall apart in real time. They were told that loyalty to a company meant security, that marriage meant permanence, that working hard guaranteed results. Then they saw divorce rates rise. They saw loyal employees get laid off. They saw rules change without warning. Psychologists call it defensive pessimism, preparing for the worst so you're not shocked. Gen X calls it realism. They hope for the best, but quietly prepare for disruption. That's one reason many of them aren't loud online. They grew up when privacy was normal. If you made a mistake, only a few people knew, and eventually it faded away. There was no permanent digital record. Embarrassment expired. Sharing your whole life publicly doesn't feel freeing to many Gen Xers. It feels risky. It's not about lacking digital skills. It's about early conditioning. Less visibility feels safer. For them, visibility still equals vulnerability. Gen X also mastered irony, sarcasm, dry humor, acting unfazed. They grew up during the Cold War when nuclear threats were discussed in classrooms. Duck and cover drills suggested a desk might protect you from atomic destruction. When adults say everything is fine, but the world feels unstable, you learn to hold two realities at once. You learn to separate emotions. Irony becomes protection. Despite all this, they developed a distinct work ethic. They don't talk much about hustle. They don't constantly brand themselves. They just work. Many started young, delivering newspapers at dawn, working grocery stores, babysitting entire neighborhoods, fixing things because no one else would. It wasn't about building resumes. It was about responsibility. When they saw companies fail, they shifted loyalty, not to corporations, to competence. They may not control layoffs, but they can control skill, and skill feels like real security. At their core, there's a duality. They're extremely self-reliant, sometimes almost isolated. Asking for help can feel uncomfortable, but when someone else needs help, they show up. No announcement, no performance, just action. They learned early that loyalty is practical, not performative. Their relationship with authority is cautious. They respect real expertise, not titles. Show competence and they'll stand behind you. Show status without substance and patience disappears. They grew up watching institutions fail publicly. That leaves an imprint. Trust must be earned. Economically, they faced repeated shocks. Recessions in the early 90s, the dot-com crash, the 2008 financial crisis. The idea of permanence started to look like an illusion. That's why many keep multiple income streams, not just ambition, precaution. Depending on one source feels risky. Research shows Gen X scores high in self-reliance, sometimes almost hyper-independent. In crises, they're calm and analytical. But that strength can hide something deeper, difficulty depending on others. Asking for help can feel like giving up autonomy, and autonomy is sacred to them. Their relationship with information is different too. Before the internet, knowledge took effort. Libraries, card catalogs, physical pages. When something takes effort, it feels more valuable. They also learned by doing. If something broke, you tried to fix it. You experimented. That created confidence. The world can be understood if you're patient. Now they're raising children in a completely different world. Constant monitoring, instant communication, social media documenting everything. They gave their kids what they often lacked, presence and protection. But some quietly wonder, did we protect too much? Did we expose too much? Did we trade resilience for visibility? Because to them, visibility still means risk. Generation X may be the last group that truly understands boredom. Silence without stimulation, sitting alone with your thoughts, facing uncertainty without immediately searching for answers. They're not better than other generations. They're transitional. They grew up between analog and digital, between trusting institutions and questioning them, between scarcity and abundance. They are the bridge generation. And bridges rarely get applause. They carry pressure. They hold weight. They connect worlds. Quietly, reliably, without demanding recognition. And maybe that's the most Gen X trait of all, not needing acknowledgement. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing. And if you want to support these deeper analyses of psychology, culture, and generations, leave your like and share it with someone who likes this type of content. Your support makes these conversations possible.